well. Thankful. I want to acknowledge I'm here in the Center for Community Health Integration at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. The QR code will take you to our center so you can learn more about what we do here, which is very much participatory, community-based, and in my case, systems and social marketing based. So I'm just going to try to connect a couple of dots and set some context for Sinead and I's conversation and a conversation with you as well today. So it's pretty easy to sort of see some themes emerging from our first sessions, and I just wanted to highlight some of those things and what's at least being I'm becoming aware of as we're doing our first three and now fourth one today. So on the left here, there's a correspondence from Journal of Public Health, a very recent one, and I posted this because it's about the COM-B framework: communicate capabilities, opportunities, motivations, behavior. And so if you were present last session or watched our YouTube session with Dr. Okene Yue, she from Griffith University, social marketing, she talked about using this framework, the COM-B framework, to inform part of one of the studies for her dissertation. So put this up here, not only to sort of remind us to be critical of what we consume as researchers, but I want to connect the dots with, in session number 2 on the right there, Samir Deshpande and I, he was the guest in session 2, and he talked about Mike Rothschild's framework, MOA. So we got COM-B and MOA, MOA being motivation, opportunity, ability framework. So there are the QR codes there. But so COM-B, MOA, I asked UA about sort of is capability the same thing as ability. But the Mike Rothschild paper in particular is one that I think everybody should read if you're going to be in or involved with social marketing. I think it's a mandatory reading, in my opinion. I come back to it all the time. And it's not just, please don't just go right to the framework and look for the cells and try to apply it for trying to figure out and segment if you need marketing, law, education, some mix thereof. There's some really good arguments that he makes and propositions he puts in there that I haven't seen tested anywhere. So join our LinkedIn group if you want to work together, maybe on testing some of the propositions that Mike Rothschild put in there. But I bring this up today, not just to connect the dots to sessions 1 through 3, but also I think it's really relevant for today because he gets into some of the philosophy behind his arguments. And one of those that, one of the phenomena that he brings up is tragedy of the commons. So hopefully, Sinead, I hope I'm setting the table nicely for you and for I today. So tragedy of the commons is a phenomenon that he talks about in his paper that informs his MOA, motivation, opportunity, ability framework. So on the left there's a paper for bioethics talking about antibiotic resistance as a tragedy of the commons. And I'm going further to argue for a tax on antibiotic use in humans. So talk about going right to the stick or the law part, the policy part of the framework from Rothschild. So I picked this because this relates to part of Sinead's research that I believe she wants to share with us today, and we can ask about and have a conversation on. So the dots are connecting nicely for me in terms of my idea for marketing-driven systems change. And as I said, I'm focused here on integrating the social marketing with system dynamics modeling. There are other approaches to system thinking for sure, but system dynamics is what I've just been drawn to and focused on heavily for a decade now plus. And so there's an archetype on the right here from the systems thinker called the tragedy of the commons template. And so we may get into some of this conversation more today, but at least you have the QR code. Even if you don't know it by its name, you probably know this phenomenon. So it's where people individually pursue their own actions, which benefit them, but eventually everybody else is worse off. So lots of literature on this, and we can get into that if that strikes your fancy today. But if you were here in previous sessions, you didn't think that I would forget to look up and see if there were any system dynamics models out there for you to dig into the tragedy of the commons if you wanted to explore this more. So there you go. The IC Exchange, my go-to place when I want to see if anybody has, that's not the only place, but to see if folks have made available their modeling work from a system dynamics perspective. And all you have to do is go to the Exchange, type in whatever topic it is or area that you're looking for. I just put in commons, and I didn't want to give you all the screenshots, but it goes down for quite a few examples of modeling, not just models that you could play with. If you have the software, you can download it, but also games. So interactive learning environments that you can learn from, experiment with, and refine your mental models. So it's got lots of examples, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So almost done here, gabbing. Sinead, we'll get to you. Thank you for letting me set the table. Hopefully I said it well. So again, I'm calling this Marketing Driven Systems Change, the seminar series. And in session one, I brought my physical copy of this 1973 book from Laser and Kelly, one of which was at Michigan State, where I've done some of my graduate school work. And I just, there's a lot of wisdom in the older texts that sometimes we forget about because they're older, but this is his description of what social marketing is. That was 1973, and I don't think it was realized. I don't think this is not, I think, what most people think of when they think of social marketing, but that's what I'm arguing for. And as I did in session one, trying to argue for a reorientation, at least a lot of the academic parts of the social marketing system. Not that everybody needs to do it this way, but I think there's a need for more of us to be doing social marketing research and practice with a systems lens. And this is looking familiar to those of you who have been here for one or more of the previous sessions. This is from Kim Warren's 2013 System Dynamics Society Presidential Address. And I was at the conference that year, and it just immediately struck me. I'm like, whoa, this is an easy way for me to think about the field of social marketing. So we've got the academics here over on the left, who, that's what I consider myself. We largely, not solely, some of us also do practice, but we publish. And we're not the only ones, but we develop methods, frameworks, approaches that then the users, the clients, the people who commission social marketing work apply with the practitioners to do the work. And those cases need to get out there and known. And there are some great repositories out there that if you're looking for social marketing cases, we can help you find. And then those cases need to be known. And then hopefully we trigger some virtuous reinforcing types of feedback loops with bringing in more users, develop more methods, and we get more students who become academics or they become practitioners, and the thing just chugs along in a beautiful fashion. That's thank you to Kim Warren for that. I always come back to this, and actually have a social marketing tailored version as well. So look me up on our LinkedIn group if you want to talk about doing some modeling work of the social marketing field, regardless of which country or region you're in. So thank you for being here. And as before, who is this for? What's in it for you if you stick around today and for our other sessions? So in the middle here, we've got our academics, myself, Sinead, but we're just part of the social marketing system. As you saw in the previous slide, social marketers are part of the larger change makers circle here. So thank you for being here. If you don't consider yourself part of the social marketing field or system, we're happy to have you here. And there's a lot that we can learn from you and vice versa. And then more broadly, the global citizens, if you're here joining us today or you're watching the recording and you're a concerned citizen who doesn't necessarily consider themselves a change maker or a social marketer or an academic, but you're concerned and you want to know more and do more, thank you for being here. So right on time, I didn't want to go past 10 minutes of me talking. So Sinead Duane is our guest today. Thank you for being here, Sinead, lecturer in marketing, University of Galway, Ireland. Didn't check with Sinead about posting this screenshot, so hopefully you're okay with this one. A lot of social marketing, the journals look to sort of see what papers we're publishing, how they tie into the social development goals. But Sinead's got a lot more great work out there than this paper. So thank you for being here, Sinead. So if you joined in late, I can put the PDFs of these two items back in the chat once I stop the screen share here. So Sinead and I we will refer to a couple of these things. She will. Wicked Problem, Simple Solution on the left from a prior version of the Hastings-Domigan book, and then also on the right a report related to antibiotic resistance. So, and I understand you pulling double duty. You have your own seminar series that you're running over there, and appreciate you pulling double duty today.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to chatting about systems thinking and system social marketing with you.
So I will put the PDFs back up in the chat in case anybody joined late and couldn't grab them. But please, I'll just give you the floor to sort of, our background and how we came to social marketing is important for helping people understand what we choose to work on and how. So would love to sort of have you just tell us how you came to be in the position you're at now, your journey to social marketing, where you're at.
Yeah, and actually, I've never really thought about my career pathway in that way until I was invited to speak with you today and trying to, I suppose, pinpoint my interest in system social marketing. But just to give you a little bit of background for myself, so I have been suppose, a researcher for about the last 12 years. And I've been an academic in terms of a lecturer for about the last 2.5 years. So previous to my academic career, I suppose, as a lecturer, I was a postdoctoral researcher. But actually, my love of systems thinking, or the conception of systems thinking in terms of where I began my career, actually began with my PhD. So my PhD route was slightly different in that it was funded through Safe Food, the Food Safety Promotions Board here in Ireland. And it's one of the North-South bodies, so it was funded after the Good Friday Agreement. And it gave me an opportunity to work on an intervention that we tried to address male obesity. And what I learned through that intervention was that it's extremely complex. So even trying to, I suppose, persuade men to think about weight in a certain way is difficult. And then you have the layers on top of that in terms of the environmental factors that might impede success in this area. So the organization were very interested in developing a workplace intervention. But we had partnered with other organizations, such as the Irish Heart Foundation, on other initiatives that looked at kind of traditional workplaces. So we wanted to do something a little bit different. So we chose an unconventional workplace setting. So we were looking at truck drivers
Ah,
and how could we, I suppose, influence their behaviors to help them to improve their lifestyles. Um, so we conducted formative research. We used the social marketing benchmark criteria to try and help us design the intervention, which was really successful. But one of the upshots of that was that we realized that in order for us to have, I suppose, a major impact in this area, particularly
mm.
with truck drivers, because they're unregulated, they work in isolation, they have unconventional hours.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's really difficult for them to choose, make the healthier choices. So to choose healthier foods and to be physically active, especially when they're working. But what was making it even more difficult was the systems around them. So, for example, we had great ideas about what we could do for these truck drivers. So, get them to park in parking lots and walk to the shop a little bit further.
Ah,
But we actually found that some of the workplaces or the businesses that they worked for would penalize them for stopping because they
mm.
were on a certain schedule.
Yeah.
Um, we also learned that their food choices, it was difficult for them to make food choices on the road. So at this time, there was a lack of services along the main motorways. And then the options that were at the services were very poor. So again, we
Yeah.
wanted to try and influence these choices, but once we talked to the vendors, we realized, well, actually, a lot of the food isn't prepared in the services that they're brought in by caterers or they're brought in through the wholesale. So again, it needed a shift in the systems approach
Yeah.
to help to have an impact. So that was, I suppose, my first glimpse into the power and the beauty of, I suppose, systems thinking when we're trying to
Yeah.
address some of these greater societal challenges.
Love it.
So as part of that as well, my PhD, I completed my PhD as I was completing this project, but it focused on stakeholder engagement and partnership development. So we also knew that we couldn't address this issue on our own and that we needed partners because we had, I suppose, resource deficits in terms of knowledge, financial resource deficits with lots of different factors that we knew that working collectively would have a greater impact. And that was something
Right.
that we're really interested in. And I suppose that's um, where my I suppose passion and focus on partnership development and stakeholder development has emerged, I suppose, over the last number of years. So moving forward, my first kind of postdoctoral position was on a study called the Simple Project, so supporting the improvement and management of prescribing in primary care. And again, it was a challenging topic. So we were looking at how to improve the quality and the quantity of antibiotic prescribing in primary care. So primary care here in Ireland would be your general practitioner, the doctor that you would see within the community. And again, we had to do a lot of formative research as we were trying to develop the social marketing intervention, which was really insightful. So we learned loads in terms of what we could and what we couldn't do for this campaign to be a success.
Yeah.
And during that time, actually, I think I met Brian in Tampa. I did
Yeah.
an exchange in the University of Florida to try and learn more about community-based social marketing. Um, And what we learned was that if we wanted to be a success and help improve the prescribing of antibiotics, we needed to work within the systems that the GPs were currently working in. So we knew that we couldn't do something that radical. So we couldn't elongate the consultation. We couldn't do anything really outside of the consultation. But what we had to do was do something within the consultation, within the very short space of time, the 15 to 20 minutes that the doctor had with the patient. Um, and we also had to understand the system. So in Ireland, we have a two-tiered health system. So a portion of our patients pay to see the doctor, and a portion
Okay.
of the patients get to see the doctor for free.
Okay.
And it's based on your level of income. And that was really interesting for us because it focused our attention more on seeing general practice nearly as a business, whereby you were looking at making sure that your customers were satisfied with the consultation. So if you were paying for the consultation, how satisfied would you have been if you didn't get the prescription as the outcome, if the doctor just told you to go back to bed and drink some water? So we really had to work within the constraints of the system.
Yes.
And the intervention that we developed was community based. So we did a cluster randomized control trial as part of
We need
that.
more of those in social marketing.
Yeah, really, it was really beneficial. And actually, we had really good outcomes. So we improved, not only did we improve antimicrobial prescribing within the trial setting, but we also maintained it after the 6 months. And that's because we really listened and tried to understand the system as it was at that time. And we
Terrific.
wanted to support the GPs as opposed to contradicting what they were doing.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your journey's just starting, but thank you for telling us sort of how you got to kind of to where you're at now, and can I say your love of system social marketing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I can say that. All right. So you started talking about simple, and the PDFs I put both examples of what we're going to talk about with your work today in the chat again. So the simple study. In the title there is, and throughout a few spots, there's the term wicked problem.
Yeah.
Um, I might sound like a hypocrite because I spent a good part of the back part of my dissertation looking at sort of the initial papers on this and talking about it. But I'm kind of get sick of seeing social marketing people throwing the term wicked problem out there at everything and think that that's just going to ignite or be their ticket to getting things published. So what's your take on people and the use of the term wicked problem? I feel like it became a buzzword and I don't know, maybe people don't understand it when they're using the term wicked problem. So what does it mean to you?
So I've definitely seen this being used more now than it would have been whenever we were working on this project.
Okay.
How long ago was that now? About 5, 6 years ago.
I see.
Um, I would I think that it does highlight some important characteristics that we should be thinking about within social marketing. So this idea that um, there's more than one problem that could be fanning the flames of these issues. So for the case of
Yep.
antimicrobial resistance, it's bigger than just general practitioners. Um, I know that I do think that there's conflicting views about how solutions can be made, particularly again, if I use the topic of antimicrobial resistance. In Ireland and Europe, you can see that sometimes there's this kind of blame game going on. So it's the medical people are looking to the veterinarian or the agriculture for causing this problem and vice versa.
Let's see.
I think that from a system social marketing perspective, we should be thinking more about transformation as opposed to wicked problems. So taking transformational approaches, which are kind of more collective, more collaborative, more co-created, I suppose more positive than thinking about these hyper complex issues that are facing our society. So yes, I do think it has a place, but I think that terms such as transformation, holistic viewpoints, I think are more suitable given what the challenges that we're trying to address.
I agree with that totally. And we here in our center with Peter Hovman wrote the book on community-based system dynamics. And one of the things I come back to a colleague here in the room as well from our center and with system dynamics is I don't see enough in social marketing of spending enough time up front on characterizing the problem, understanding what type of problem it is. And some are transformation problems, some are analytical problems, some are coordination problems. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I think that the work that I've done, we've invested a lot of time in the formative research stage. So trying to actually understand what the problem is. And then from that, we can try and work out the solution. So for example, with the simple study,
Yeah.
we found through just talking with GPs that the issue wasn't necessarily to do with the types of antibiotics they were prescribing, but was how they interpreted the guidelines. So patients would come back and say they'd sore stomach from taking a certain antibiotic, when in actual fact what was happening was the GPs were prescribing the antibiotic for longer because in their mindset that if they told the person that it was 5 days, they would take it for 3 days. So if a drug was supposed to be prescribed for 3 days, they'd give it to them for 5 days, and then they'd hope
Okay.
that they'd take them for 3 days. So again, it's that understanding of the problem and looking at what are the active ingredients for change, and whereabouts in the system is it that those active ingredients take place, and how can we work um, to make changes or support collaboration to address those things.
Speaking my language, I love this. So I don't see any. Feel free, folks, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. But for now, Sinead, unless you want to spend more time, we could go to the second example. Is it PIER or PIER? I don't know how you pronounce the acronym, but
PIER, yeah.
you may have some goodies to facilitate the screen sharing as well. You're welcome to do that. But I have a
Yeah,
question about that, but let me just let you have the floor for that.
I'll just give you a brief overview of what PIER is. I think that for this one, it might be easier if I take you through a brief presentation. Can
Please.
you see the slides?
I do. Looks great. Looks like Ireland.
Yeah, so this it doesn't look like Ireland today. We're very dull and grey. But we got some funding from the Environmental Protection Agency here in Ireland to conduct a systems thinking response to improving recreation water quality in our blue spaces. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of this project, and this is on behalf of the PIER team. See if I can get this to work.
Yeah.
So we're very much have a focus here in the University of Galway and in Ireland on the Sustainable Development Goals, and how can we develop our research, but also develop projects that have impact and help us advance our achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. So PIER actually, I suppose, transcends a number of them. So it looks at things like good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, climate action, and life below water, as we try and improve our recreational waters. And when I use the terms either blue spaces or recreational waters, it really refers to our rivers, lakes, and seas. So anything that's natural and not man-made. So things like swimming pools wouldn't be included in that. So PIER stands for the public health impact of exposure to antimicrobial resistance in recreational water. And it is a multidisciplinary collaborative study. So I worked with colleagues in the School of Medicine and the Department of Microbiology on this project. And their role really was to understand if people that swim in the sea are more likely to be colonized with antimicrobial resistant bugs in their guts. So that was their mission. That's what they wanted to achieve. So whether we are affected by these invisible bugs that are in our water and not generally tested for. But the PIs in the project were also very much aware that to address antimicrobial resistance, you need to take a broader, holistic, transformational approach. And therefore, we were invited to participate in the project as part of one of their work packages. And again, this was funded by the EPA, and these are our collaborators on the project. But Dervla and Liam's vision, I suppose, was coming from this One Health perspective. And One Health really looks at trying to address complex societal challenges such as antimicrobial resistance through a collaborative, multi-sectoral and transdisciplinary approach, whereby we're looking at the different levels of the system, local, I suppose, national and global, and trying to say, okay, how can we work together to address these societal challenges, particularly with issues such as AMR, which don't, I suppose, respect geographical boundaries.
Yes.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with AMR, so AMR is a resistance of a bug bacteria to an antibiotic that used to work to treat people with infections caused by the bug. So the AMR bugs are able to withstand attacks by antibiotics, and this means that they will no longer work. But whenever I was trying to, I suppose, identify what we could do as part of this project and how can we adopt a systems thinking, it was actually important for me to look at the whole system. So we were very much focused on water quality, but what is it that are the drivers of AMR in the environment, and how is that linked to actually thinking about water quality? And what we found was that this is just a graphic of all the different, I suppose, contributors to
Yeah.
AMR in the environment. And as you can see, it comes from healthcare, it comes from agriculture, it comes from personal usage, and then it all seeps back into the water, and it can have an impact. So therefore, if we're trying to change the issue of AMR, especially in water quality, uh, you need to think about, okay, what are the systems that are impacting us, and what are the systems that are maybe connected to this issue that might be having an impact. And this research all took place in COVID, which actually helped, I suppose, put a magnifying glass on water quality for us. So
Oh,
lots of people during COVID, we were very restricted here in Ireland. We had some of the, I suppose, the strictest restrictions in the world in terms of what we could and couldn't do. But what we most people could do if they were in the vicinities, we could access our blue spaces. So we could go to the beach. It was open, it was outside. And this, I suppose, created this awareness and this lure for people to come and enjoy our blue spaces, but also a recognition that actually our water quality might need to be improved in certain areas.
huh.
This map of Ireland is the EPA map,
Okay.
and this is 2021, and the blue identify the areas that have got excellent water quality, but you can still see that there are pockets in Ireland that have only got good, sufficient, or poor water quality. And 20 in the 2020s, I suppose that's not good enough, and we should be striving for excellent water quality throughout Ireland. So from a systems thinking or systems social marketing perspective, there are a number of benefits to trying to adopting a systems thinking approach to this. So engaging new perspectives, this non-linear thinking, so removing my biases, removing my perceptions of what the problem was, and taking this holistic, collaborative approach.
Love it.
Reinforcing the balancing processes and identifying root causes. And the thing that I like most about this approach is that this multidisciplinary perspective where you can have conversations and you can have respectful conversations about these different perspectives.
Mhm.
Um, and I suppose the main thing we were looking at was the barriers and facilitators. So I'm going to skip ahead here because I'm just conscious of the time. But this
Oh,
is what we did. So there was actually 5 stages to the study, which included a systematic review and in-depth interviews as well. But there were kind of 2 phases to the systems building approach. So the first was the Blue Space Survey, which was opened to anyone living in Ireland at the time, and it identified nearly over 2,700 barriers and over 3,300 enablers.
wow.
So the things that were stopping people using our water, our recreational waters, and the things that were helping us.
Okay.
And then that was categorized into 15 themes for the barriers and 13 themes for enablers. And then we also undertook a stakeholder analysis, and we had a workshop here in Galway, whereby we gave everybody the barriers and the enablers, and we asked them to build the model. Um, so we asked them to think about, okay, where are the connections, where are the loops, where what are the interrelationships between the different factors that are impacting our water quality, and we designed this causal loop. And I was very lucky to work on with this project with Dimitri Bryshoff, who's on the call as well today.
Yeah. Hi,
Um,
Dimitri.
so yeah, so we created this very complex looking model, and as
Yep.
you can see in the middle of it, you can see the blue space accessibility and use is kind of one of the core focal points of the model. So everything really, one way or another, loops back to this model, and we're hoping to publish this model this year. We're just working on the final paper for it. But as you can see, there's lots of different contributors to blue space quality that are,
Yeah.
that need to be resourced. And one of the issues that we're actually looking at the moment as well is how to reflect the complexity in this model, but in an easier way. So again, when we're presenting this, it's quite challenging for people to understand what it means. So we're looking at different ways of presenting it. So this is just another representation of the model. It's very linear. It doesn't we're not happy with it. But again, that's something that we're working on. That just because things are complex, people still need to be able to understand these things, and how can we make them as accessible as possible to the different types of stakeholders that we need to adopt these changes.
Oh, I love this so much. I'm so glad you're here today. Let me pause. Maybe don't stop the screen share. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay,
If anybody in the room here has a question, I'm happy to defer. I'm checking. Everybody else is welcome to submit. But my colleague here, Robinson, has a question for you, Sinead. He's an excellent modeler here in our.
great.
Hi, Sinead. It's really nice to meet you. Really thank you for sharing your project. I think it's wonderful. I really like it. Well, my question is more about the policy outcomes. So I'm curious about what was the main policy outcome that you got from this project. And also, I'm curious about how the mental model of the stakeholders changed after using this system thinking approach applied also to social marketing. So I'm curious about this.
So policy outcomes, and then how did the mental models change as a result of the project of the stakeholders?
Yeah, with system thinking
Yeah.
in social marketing.
All right, Sinead,
Yeah.
easy questions. Go for it.
So as you can see here, from our model, can you still see that? I can't see if it's still
Yeah.
shared. Yeah, can you
It's
still see it?
you.
Yeah, so the model itself, I suppose, the, we developed two kind of model groupings, and within that, policy members were invited. So we had policy people as represented within our model changing groups, which I think is really important. So just to give you a little bit of context, we conducted a stakeholder mapping exercise that identified stakeholders at different levels of the system. And within the workshop, we invited stakeholders from those different levels to participate in the model building. We had 5 tables with 5 stakeholders at each table, but they weren't from the same perspective. So there would have been policymaker, there would have been industry, there would have been charity, there would have been layperson at all the different tables. So we would have hoped that some of that knowledge and some of the lessons learned were fed back actually during the research phase, first of all. Second of all, we're working on um, um, the policy feedback loop at the moment.
Okay.
We're launching a website to accompany this model, and again to help it become a little bit easier to manage. So what the website does is it zooms on the different areas of the map, so you can look at the different interconnections between the loops on the map, but you can also look at them as a grouping together. And that's hopefully going to be launching this quarter. And the EPA as a funder are very supportive of this. And again, there's a feedback mechanism there to help with policy. So collectively, because of the way that we ran the methodology, we hoped that we would build this collaborative network of people that could actually act as ambassadors for the work as well, which would mean that there would be more of a co-ownership of the mapping and the modeling process, which would help feed into things like policy change. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, and I just have another comment. I was thinking
Yeah.
have you considered maybe in a future step to use metrics? To start doing more like a quantitative approach, from this work.
Yeah.
This is perfect. It has a really strong basis that could help us, to start working in the reference modes or in the simulation models and so on. So I was thinking about this. Have you considered this part?
Yeah, it's something that we would consider, I suppose, in phase 2 of PIER. We only had a certain amount of funding for this part of the project, and it was designed as a qualitative approach, but definitely we would definitely take that on board. And one of the nice things that we find from this map is it gives policymakers, or it should give policymakers, the option or the understanding about maybe the unintended consequences of making changes within the system. So
Yeah.
if you make a change over on the left-hand side in terms of ownership, and there was lots of conflict around privatization of beaches and etc., what impact does that have over the overall blue space accessibility in terms of connectivity, costings, those kind of things. Sorry, what was the second part of your question again?
Yeah, it was only the metrics about the measures.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just curious about how you will convert this CLD into something quantitative. Because, well, this is what we do here in the She Center. We work a lot in quantitative models. So I was
Yeah.
thinking it could be also a way of collaboration. In
Yeah,
this.
amazing. We did, although it was funded as a qualitative piece of work, we have had conversations about quantifying it,
Okay.
but we're having difficulty accessing longitudinal data to underpin the model.
Oh.
And that's something that we're looking at in the long term to see if there's maybe a survey or data that we can access in order to help support these types of models that we're developing.
Think, I
Does
mean,
that answer your
try to go for this path. I think that Brian also we can help you. I don't know, to make this model quantitative.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'd love that. It'd be great opportunity for collaboration.
And positive, thank you, Robinson. Jen says policy feedback loop mechanism is vital. So yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Jen.
And again, one of the nice things about this approach is that you want it to have impact. So all the research that I undertake obviously has an academic impact, but you want it to have an impact in society as well. And I think that that's one of the benefits of using this approach and joining it with social marketing, that you can see the benefits of actually implementing this in practice.
So in terms of being able to explain something this complex with this many variables and feedback loops to others and have it, develop insights that you wouldn't have had otherwise and lead to action that you wouldn't have led to otherwise. I was just thinking back, the first time I met our center director here, Peter Haveman, founder of Community-Based System Dynamics, was 2011. We used to have an Institute on System Science and Health summers here funded by the National Institutes of Health. And there was a track for system dynamics, agent-based modeling, social network analysis, and I was lucky enough to get into the social system dynamics track, and Peter came. They had different modelers come in, and first time I met him, and he didn't come alone. He brought a community member with him from St. Louis, where he was at, and co-presented their modeling project and their work. And I just was blown away. Like, that was my first exposure to modeling, and he's here with a community member. So have you tried, or maybe you already do this, presenting, having community members or other different types of stakeholders go out and co-present the map?
Yeah, so so after we had the model building, the model building workshop, I suppose one of the next phases of us was the socialization of the map.
Okay.
So during that phase, Dimitri, my colleague, spoke to people that were at the model building workshop to show them what the map looked like, but also stakeholders that didn't have an opportunity to come to the workshop for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and to make sure that, first of all, that they were represented, but also to explain the map to them and try and see their understanding of it. Um, so we have started that process, I suppose, and once we launch the website that we've developed,
Yeah.
that's a little bit more interactive. We hope that that'll be a little bit easier to hand this over to different types of stakeholders to explain what they did, because they essentially created it. We just represented what they said.
Uh-huh.
Um, and what we've done with the website is that we've put the narratives from the conversations that happened at the model building workshop. So we've
Love
put
that.
small explanations of what the people in the workshop felt that the loops meant. And again, that's just so that we could break down the complexity a little bit more, but still highlight the interconnections between the different variables, because we didn't want to lose the complexity, but we just want to make it more accessible to different types of people. And we wanted this map to be accessible for all. So we've also, one of the comments on it was that, okay, you can't read this from, if you had an impairment, it's very difficult to try and read
Ah,
these maps.
I see.
So to make it accessible to all, we're thinking about how can we do that? So how can we make something that is supposed to improve blue spaces for everybody, and make it accessible? So we're on that pathway. We just haven't done it fully yet.
Hopefully we can maybe play some part of the pathway. We got a positive. Thanks, Dimitri says he likes the idea of quantifying. So we know how to contact each other now. So we'll see where the
Great.
conversation goes. But we have a couple other things. I know it's 10:16 here our time. We end 10:30 our time. We did want to also talk, Sinead, you and I, about teaching and mentoring. You saw my systems map adapted. I talked through Kim Warren's version of what makes up a field. And so the academics and the students hopefully are developing things that are useful to the clients, those who commission us, and the practitioners. So Um, you and I, you generously asked me to help you with your application to the Marie Curie Network to maybe get one or two social marketing students to come over here and visit us in the Center for Community Health Integration. So fingers crossed for that. But what do you see? What's on your mind about sort of teaching and mentoring the next cohorts of social marketing academics or practitioners?
Yeah, so we've had lots of opportunity in the University of Galway, spearheaded, I suppose, by Professor Christine Donegan, who I suppose introduced the concept of social marketing with here in the university. That's evolved a little bit. So instead of talking specifically about social marketing, we're talking about systems thinking within social marketing. We're looking at different aspects of it. So partnerships, network, stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
So, and because of our support with the Sustainable Development Goals, some of the objectives that social marketing seeks to meet are now being taught in other modules. So, for example, I'm teaching a research methods module.
Yeah.
I'm teaching a partnership development module, and all of them are given the opportunity to think about, okay, if we're in business and we're trying to have obviously a commercial impact,
Yes.
what are the connotations of that? So instead of just looking at for profit, what is the triple bottom line, and how can we make sure that for our shareholders, for our stakeholders, that we can address different types of creating value within business. And I think that's really important from a social marketing perspective as well, because it opens the opportunity for people to think about what their actions are and the actions their businesses are having on the wider environment, but it also
Hmm?
looks at opportunities for engagement. So engagement and innovation. So how can a business, how can a community-based organization collaborate in order to have an impact to reach some of our maybe social marketing goals or the sustainable development goals. So we've introduced a new module within University of Galway that looks specifically at partnership development and stakeholder engagement to show the importance
Fantastic.
that it actually has. We have a new master's program that focuses specifically on sustainable development as well, and
Oh,
that's embedded within that master's program. And if anyone wants any information on that, I'd be happy to share it. So there are lots of opportunities, I suppose, to formally convey the message of social marketing, but also within the other modules that we are doing. But there's also a lot of work going on within the university to map how we're trying to achieve or teach the Sustainable Development Goals. So if it's mentioned within a module, if we use a framework that's aligned with it, that's now being mapped to help identify the different areas of impact that we might be having in terms of education.
boy,
And
talk
I'm always
about
looking at opportunities.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Talk about sort of the Denell Meadows and sort of where and the relative ranking of different sort of leverage points, and you know the goals of a system and how that influences everything below it. And over there, it's clear that you know, sustainable development goals have a big influence on what you choose to pursue and work on. And over here, when you write a grant application, you're usually a federal one. You have to say, how does this connect to healthy people 2020, 2030? So I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
analog for us with sustainable development goals. So boy, oh boy, talk about how the goals of the system drive the rest of the stuff below it.
Yeah, and as you can see from my background, we're the school for the public good. So it's very much on our minds in terms of, okay, we want our commercial organizations to obviously create value, but we also want to make sure that they create value in different ways. And looking after society for the future is also very important. So I think our education is evolving in that direction. And I think there's lots of opportunity for social marketing to be used as case studies within modules or to be taught in its own right to help understand that.
So glad you mentioned that, and that's part of why one of the draft titles of the seminar series I put market parentheses ing driven systems change because I'm trying to get more out there, more people in social marketing thinking more about it's not just how marketing can influence the social problems that then we try to apply social marketing to, but markets as an example of a type of system and how those drive the social problems that we're working on. So no strain to figure out some of the markets at play with the antibiotic and antimicrobial resistance. Here we're going to be talking a moment here about our guests next week and sort of some of the markets that lead to the social problem that we're then applying social marketing to in the first place. So this is all interrelated and beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. We've done a bit of work on demarketing, I suppose poor marketing choices, and whether we should be focusing on the status quo, so trying to be more sustainable and still kind of pushing for the sale of more products and more services, or should we take a more innovative approach and come up with other opportunities or solutions that doesn't involve this cycle of continuously buying more.
More. Yeah, I get it. And I just feel free if anybody wants to, you can do a hand raise. If you don't want to just type your question, I can get you unmuted if you want to join the conversation here. So I feel like selfishly we've identified some opportunities for ourselves between you guys and us over here to collaborate. And sometimes I think I have my blinders on too much. And I'm just thinking about social marketing, but in the bigger sort of my concentric circles there of the change makers that we're a part of and the global citizens. Are there any other sort of other change maker tribes that you see that maybe we should be collaborating more and working with? Here, I'll just give my example is at Case Western, the folks who do social entrepreneurship. I'm really sort of trying to look more closely at that. And when should a problem or initiative or a challenge be taken primarily through social marketing, and when should it primarily be social entrepreneurship? Or what are you seeing in the change maker space that we should be paying more attention to and talking with?
So at the moment I'm working on another project called the Blue Adapt project, and it's looking at the use of smartphone apps to help change people's behaviors. So I think that there's a lot of scope to work in the space of digital marketing, engineering, to look at kind of innovative approaches to change, and not just kind of the conventional approaches that we are looking at in terms of the benchmark criteria. And I think that the way that technology is evolving, there's lots of scope and opportunities there.
Yeah, we're at our university here, Case Western. A lot of it is engineering, and it's been a real eye opener and really great here to think more about innovation and licensing technology, and that changes, incentives changes sort of how things skin in the game, and so it's been great being here and seeing things through that lens. Let me make sure I get our final slide or two in. Thank you, Sinead, for the wonderful.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere yet, though. So we're getting close to our time, but there's still time if you want to raise your hand. I can unmute you. What is coming up next week? I only put 2 of the 4 pictures on here, but there'll be 4 of us next week. So I thought it might be nice to try out. We're still trying to figure out our model here for the seminar series. So it doesn't just have to be one exact same approach each week. So next week, we're going to try something different. February 26th, 9:30 a.m. our time here in the Eastern time zone. Let me know if you don't have the information to register for this Zoom webinar series. We're going to have 4 of us on, so a panel, true panel. Ms. Robin Brown, founder and leader of Collective Citizens Organized Against Lead. Cheryl Kim, who is the fellow from Community Science Fellow from Thriving Earth Exchange. And the 2 of them got together, and then Robin invited me to join them. So I'm a co-investigator, a community scientist on this project that is just got approvals, and we're getting ready to kick this off. And we're also happy to say we're going to be joined by a social marketing colleague. I just got to meet with them one more time to make sure they're on board. So I won't say who it is, but they're fantastic. They have experience in parts of social marketing practice that I don't have. So we're going to do kind of a little panel, maybe a consultancy protocol might be the way that I do it, where Robin, Cheryl, and I talk through and explain, here's our design for this project, which is going to integrate social marketing and system dynamics to address soil and the lead here in lead in the soil here in Cleveland. Well, the lead's everywhere, unfortunately, but in the soil particularly, so this project is focusing on. So we're going to present our design and a chance to get input before we get to the end and present. But now's our chance to get input when we're in the design phase. So really looking forward to that. Please join us, and you're going to get a chance to hear our design, and you get to tell us or what you think maybe we should consider differently with our design. So please join us. And we're pretty close to time. We do have a couple more minutes. So again, I want to thank our center here, Center for Community Health Integration. We're within Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. There's the QR code if you want to join our LinkedIn group for the seminar series. Let me make sure we see here. Okay, thank you, Robin. Okay. And I can unmute Karen if they wish. So tips for how to understand the problem more deeply, in addition to listening to stakeholders and looking at data. Oh, Sinead, that sounds like a good question for you. Can you take
Yeah,
that?
so I find that in all of the studies that I have taken part in, we obviously do qualitative research, which really gives us really good insights into how people perceive a problem or the actions that they believe that they pursue. But observation actually helps, I suppose, understand, is there a difference between what they say they do and what they actually do? So at the moment, we are looking for the Blue Adapt project, for example. We have completed our qualitative interviews already, and we've conducted a survey as part of the project. But we're also now looking at the Google Analytics. So the app that we're looking at already exists, and we want to see how people are using it and whether how they say they're using it and how they're actually using it linked together. So we are looking at things like metrics to say, okay, well, how many people are visiting certain pages? How sticky are those pages? How long are they staying on them, etc. We've also used approaches such as social listening in the social media space. So if there was a problem, such as, I'll give you an example. One of my colleagues worked on an obesity topic, and there was a public social networking site that provided advice. And I looked at the interaction between, I suppose, the public health person and the citizens. So I think observation is really key to trying to understand how people interact with each other.
Karen, would you like to have the final word?
Yeah, no, that was terrific. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to look and see. I'd be really interested in some of the obesity work that you've done. And
Yeah.
so I'll see if I can Google that, or if there are links that aren't obvious, if I will try to find them.
Yeah, you can contact me. I'm happy to have a chat with you outside of this as well.
Thank you so much. Great session.
So I'll put you in touch with my colleague here, Robin Brown, who wants to know about access to the apps as well, Sinead, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Well, wow, perfect. We're right on time, 10:30 here. Thank you, everybody. So as always, we will get the video processed and put up on YouTube and in our LinkedIn group. Sinead and I, if you have time, we stand 2 minutes to debrief and thank her properly. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Please join us next week for our panel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.